Chapter 181. If he wanted to do it, he had to do it without leaving a trace and without leaving a single flaw. He first introduced the advantages of these 3 horses to the princess. If the princess really liked one of the 3 horses and rode it, angering His Highness, then the consequences would have nothing to do with him. If His Highness blamed him, he could say that the legs belonged to the princess and the horse was the one that the princess wanted to ride. Like this, he would be able to complete the concubine consort's task and he would be able to protect himself. It was a pity that his plans were all for naught. Of the 3 horses he recommended, Qianning did not like any of them. The horse groom closed his mouth. He obediently followed behind Qianning and then saw Qianning stop in front of a small date red horse. "I want this one." Qianning smiled as she nodded at the date red horse. The horse groom bowed in agreement, but his heart was filled with disdain. There were so many large horses that she didn't choose and she actually chose this short, ugly and weak horse. He remembered that this date red horse was the one that His Highness had brought with him when he bought the jade flower horse from Dewan 3 years ago. Just looking at it, he could tell that it was not a good horse and the horse groom did not care about it. If it wasn't for His Highness' love for horses, this small and thin date red horse would have already been slaughtered and eaten by them. In these 3 years, Chu Xiaoyang had never looked at this date red horse, so it did not even have a saddle on it. It just stood alone in the shed, listlessly eating grass and swinging its tail from time to time. Its fur was sparse and did not have any luster. Compared to the shining horses that Qianning had seen before, it was like heaven and earth. It could be seen that it had not entered Chu Xiaoyang's eyes. Even the horse groom had neglected it and did not care about it at all. Qianning stood in front of it and carefully looked at it. The more she looked, the more she liked it. The horse groom brought over a saddle and walked into the shed to put it on the date red horse. Who would have thought that the date red horse would suddenly raise its hoof and heavily kick him? "Beast, damn beast." The horse groom fell to the ground and loudly cursed. He quickly got up and pulled out a whip to swing at the date red horse. With a schwa sound, the whip he lashed out did not hit the date red horse, but instead hit his own face. He was stunned. When he looked over, he found that his hand holding the whip was being held by Qianning. "This is a horse that I like, so how can you hit it and scold it?" Qianning grabbed the whip and threw it on the ground. She coldly stared at the horse groom. She bent down to pick up the saddle that had fallen to the ground and prepared to personally put it on the date red horse. The horse groom had been hit by the whip and his face was burning with pain. He did not stop this and secretly hoped that Qianning would also be hit by the horse's hooves. When the date red horse saw Qianning approach, it began to become anxious. Its hind hooves kept flying and it had a very unfriendly expression. "Zai Qin is to the horse," it said. Qianning smiled as she praised it. She was not in a rush to put the reins on it, but she took out a dumpling candy from her pocket. Holding it in her palm, she sent it forward. The date red horse snorted and came forward to sniff it. It first licked it in confusion before happily eating it. Soon the candy disappeared, but the date red horse did not have enough. It continued to lick her palm, feeling itchy. Qianning smiled and took out another 2 dumplings to feed to the horse. Then she reached out to stroke the horse's mane. Chapter 182. Qianning giggled and dodged. She did not want the horse's tongue to lick off the makeup she worked so hard to put on. The horse groom was dumbfounded seeing this. This bad-tempered horse was actually subdued by Qianning with just 2 pieces of candy? This was simply too incredible. Qianning had come prepared. Although she had never ridden a horse before, she knew from the books that the best way to gain a horse's liking was to give it what it liked. A horse's sense of smell was very sensitive to sweet and salty tastes, so she had prepared a bag of dumplings and the date red horse immediately accepted her. Like the legendary 1,000-mile horse, it was the most loyal to its first master. Since the date red horse had licked her face, it had recognized her as its master. If other people wanted to use the method of feeding it candy to please the horse, it would not work. Qianning put the saddle on the horse and then tightened the horse's belt. The date red horse was very docile and was very affectionate as it rubbed against her. The horse groom's jaw almost dropped when he saw this. What Qianning did not know was that this date red horse was the smallest and most common horse in the horse farm, but it also had the worst temper out of all the horses. It never let anyone get close and it did not like living in the same shed as other horses. The horse groom was too lazy to care about it, so they just locked it in a shed by itself. They would feed it grass and water whenever they wanted, and when it was dirty they would pour buckets of water on it, leaving it to fend for itself. No one would have thought that this kind of bad horse would enter the princess' eyes. It really was the kind of person riding a horse. The princess consort was ugly and the horse she chose was also ugly. They had all heard that the princess consort was ugly. When His Highness was marrying a concubine, the princess had appeared, scaring all the guests that came to congratulate them. Even now this matter was still a joke among them. Chen Ning hugged the date red horse affectionately for a while, and Xiaoru curiously came over. She had never ridden a horse before, and seeing that the horse was very docile towards Chen Ning, she wanted to reach out and touch the horse's back. Be careful. Before Xiaoru's hand could touch the horse's back, the date red horse suddenly raised its head and neighed. Xiaoru was so scared that she quickly pulled back her hand. Don't touch it yet, it's still unfamiliar with you. Wait for me to get familiar with it for a few days and then you can get closer to it. Chen Ning smiled as she pulled Xiaoru behind her. Xiaoru stuck out her tongue at the date red horse and made a face. What are you acting so proud for? It's so ugly and it's so fierce. Young miss, this servant thinks that all the other horses are better looking than this one, so why did you choose it? Xiaoru had a puzzled look on her face. When judging a horse, it doesn't matter if it's beautiful or ugly. When it comes to heroes, it doesn't matter where they come from. You think this horse is ugly, but in my opinion, it's a rare precious horse. Chen Ning lovingly stroked the horse's mane. Chi, this can also be considered as a good horse? You are indeed a shallow person who has never seen the world. Suddenly, a cold laugh filled with disdain came from behind Chen Ning. She turned around and saw that Chu Xiaoyang had unknowingly appeared 3 meters behind her. He was wearing a black robe that made him look even more handsome. The bruises on his face had mostly disappeared and he had returned to his jade-like handsome appearance. He had a face of ridicule as he looked over the date red horse. Then he coldly looked at Chen Ning and spat out 2 words. Chapter 183. Chen Ning had to say that Chu Xiaoyang's face really deserved a slap. But she was not angry. Rather she smiled and said, "This horse is very good, how about you give it to me?" "Give it to you? For what reason?" Chu Xiaoyang countered with a question. This bad horse was like a mouse that had fallen into a pot of soup. He did not care about it at all, but since Chen Ning wanted it, he would not give it to her. "If you don't want to give it to me, then I won't give it to you. You're so stingy. Then can this princess ride it?" Chen Ning gave an uncaring shrug. "You know how to ride a horse?" Chu Xiaoyang looked at her. "I don't, but can't I learn if I don't know?" Chen Ning revealed a bright smile. In this horse field with the blue sky and white clouds, she felt that everything was very beautiful. Of course, other than the man in front of her. "Very good. Horse groom, teach her how to mount the horse." Chu Xiaoyang gave a cold smile. He crossed his arms and stood in place, looking like he was watching a joke. Chen Ning did not want him to teach her, so she didn't even need a horse groom. She closed her eyes and silently went through the basics of horse riding in her mind. Then she opened her eyes and revealed a sweet smile to the date red horse. Horse, you have to be obedient. If you throw me off, I won't give you any candy." She patted the horse's head. It was unknown if the horse understood her, but it gave a loud snort. Chu Xiaoyang gave a cold laugh. "Do you think it's a human that can understand your words?" Chen Ning was too lazy to care about him. She grabbed the saddle and her left foot stepped into the stirrup. She flew over and gracefully climbed onto the horse's back. Her movements were light and fast. Although the way she mounted the horse looked very beautiful, Chu Xiaoyang could tell with a single glance that she really did not know how to ride a horse. Humph, let's see if she doesn't fall on her butt. Who would have thought that he would be disappointed? Chen Ning's hands grabbed the horse reins and then she let go. With a gentle shake, the date red horse began to slowly move forward. 1 lap, 2 laps. The date red horse gradually sped up. It went from a slow walk to a canter and from a canter to a fast run. The sound of the horse's hooves rang through the green grass. Her sky blue hunting clothes fluttered in the wind, looking very heroic as she rode the horse. Xiaoru was stunned. She kept clapping her hands and cheering for Chen Ning. "Young miss, you're really beautiful," she sincerely praised. "Beautiful my ass." Chu Xiaoyang fiercely cursed in his heart. Even though he was shocked by Chen Ning's figure on the horse, just looking at her back was enough to make people's eyes light up. But when she rode the horse over, the wind lifted her veil, revealing her face that was covered in red spots. He felt his eyes hurt and quickly turned his head, not looking at her again. Thinking about it now, Chen Ning broke out in a cold sweat. "Thank you. Not only did you save me, you also saved all these citizens." Chen Ning looked up and sincerely thanked the black-clothed man. The black-clothed man was stunned as he stared straight at her face. His eyes couldn't hide the astonishment in his eyes. You. He exhaled and frowned slightly. Why did you paint your face in such a weird way? What happened to my face? Chen Ning reached out to touch it and felt her hand become wet. She finally realized that the rouge on her face had been licked clean by the date red horse. This rouge had a sweet smell to it, no wonder the horse liked to lick her face. He even wanted someone to bring food to him. She wasn't even his servant. If you want to eat, then do it yourself. Chen Ning skillfully rolled up a crispy pancake for herself. Then she pushed the small silver knife in front of him and ate it with relish. The black-clothed man's lips twitched as he stared right at Chen Ning. Very good, this girl was really bold, she even dared to refuse his request. Chen Ning did not even look at him as she finished eating the biscuit. Seeing that he was not moving, she took the silver knife and rolled up another piece. She completely ignored the black-clothed man's eyes that were filled with anticipation as she directly placed it into her own mouth. The black-clothed man could not help but feel the veins on his forehead pop out. Delicious, this phoenix nest is really delicious. Why aren't you eating it? Do you not like it? Alright, then I'll have to eat it myself. But if you lose to this king, what do you think this king will do to you? Chu Xiaoyang slightly narrowed his eyes and looked over Chen Ning. Though her face still looked grotesque, he was gradually getting used to it and finding it less glaring. Is not your highs he, Chen, King Chen he want me? Chu Shen say he is, s name? Oh. Chu Xiaoyang could not hold it in. He choked on his own saliva and began to cough. Of course he knew that she was doing this on purpose, but he could not get angry. Not only was he not angry, he almost broke out in laughter from her exaggerated expression. You're dreaming. You want to be this king's woman? In your next life. He tried his best to control the smile on his lips and put on a serious face. Then many thanks for your highness grace. Chen Ning's words made his mood that had just become better immediately turn dark.